I can't believe I forgot to mention this play in the last video. So I'm glad Caitlin Clark called it out herself because some turnovers are bad, right? Like, I think a lot of the narrative around Clark's turnovers has been so greatly exaggerated as a way to hate on her. Of course, any high level engine of a team who has the ball in their hands a lot and is the focus of the other team's defense is going to turn the ball over. The greatest players in history are generally also the ones who have the most turnovers because they have the ball the most. But there are turnovers that hurt you. And in this game, Caitlin Clark had one in particular, perhaps the biggest standout turnover for her all season, considering the circumstances and the head scratching nature of the play. As awesome as she's not perfect. I couldn't find perfect video of this either, but this will get the job done. Caitlin Clark with a great defensive play, actually. A huge defensive play here. Get me that. Going the other way. She's usually spectacular in transition, and I don't know why she tried to force feed that ball to Temefag Benlake. That is one that Caitlin just has to take herself. Of course, it comes the other way. Minnesota doesn't get the first shot, but they wind up with a three-pointer on the possession. Courtney Williams there, buckets, and that may have been the difference in the game because Indiana, you see Caitlin frustrated with herself right there, standing there. Indiana was only down one with Clark heading the other way in transition. And generally, when you have that situation, you're thinking, we're going up because Clark is dynamic in transition. She's messed up. I don't know. Well, she took us through it a little bit. Here's what Caitlin had to say after the game. Matthew Byrne with the post bite here from the press conference. It sounds like she was asked what she thought was the issue for the team.
I mean, I think it starts defensively. I think get a stop. I mean, it's gonna be hard to win a game when they outscore you by 17 points in a quarter. It's impressive that we got it back to 1 point. And honestly, I thought we played really good in the fourth. And my turnover in transition is what I felt like really kind of ended the momentum for us. I think it was 78-77. I got a block and a steal, and we were running in transition. And honestly, made just a really bad read. I thought the girl was going to come over. She never ended up coming over. So I think defensively is where it has to start. Our first quarter defense was really good. Every quarter besides that was Third quarter was bad. So I think just continue to get better. But we had moments, especially to begin the fourth quarter too, that were a lot better than the other two.
And that's what a leader does. Takes responsibility when they screw up. So, I mean, I think that's the kind of thing that can trickle down and obviously doesn't mean more than one play. It's about that one play. And hopefully Clark can learn from that because that's one where she just needs to be more selfish and go for it herself. We saw her take a lot more shots that she would have turned down earlier in the year. So I thought there were a lot of good signs there. Speaking of the defense, though, that's what I mentioned before. I mean, I think the Lynx are a bad matchup. Credit to Nafisa Collier, by the way. She's gone head up with Asia Wilson and Caitlin Clark, the other MVP candidates, and really played well in those specific matchups and came away with wins. But I think Nafisa in particular is a tough matchup for the Fever because that's the position that they're lacking. They really need a wing big, like a switchable player on the outside who can guard a player like Collier, but also guard a quicker player. And that's really the one piece that's missing on the roster. As is, they can play with anybody, which they showed in this game, battling back. And I think Caitlin showed some leadership qualities by taking responsibility for her one real mishap in this game. And really, the biggest mishap she's had in a while because she's played almost perfect basketball.